I hope you've all had a pleasant day and a blessed day. It's been quite a nice day today here. We've had some sunshine and it hasn't been as cold as yesterday. It's really nice to see the sun, isn't it? Um, I was just thinking, that I've been trying to make bread for I think about 3 or 4 days now, and I keep saying to my friends, I'm away to make bread, and then something else comes up, and I just never seem to manage to do it. I only made bread, I think it was last week for the first time in my life, and I really enjoyed making it. I didn't know if I made a good job or not, but James said that it was quite nice, and anyway, he ate it all. But I was just thinking about bread, and how it's a staple. It's staple in diet throughout the world. I think everyone eats bread, and I think that people have been eating bread for centuries. I don't know how far back, but I think I read somewhere that it was even before Jesus Christ was born, obviously. So bread has been something that, if you're hungry and perhaps you don't have enough food, but if you've got bread, it fills your tummy, doesn't it? And it's very nice. I like bread. But there's a lot of people, that it's not that they don't necessarily like bread, but bread doesn't like them. They can't eat it, and I think they have to have gluten-free bread and all that sort of thing. But generally, I think that everyone does like bread, eating bread. Um, why am I saying all this? It's because when we were saying the luminous mysteries today in the Rosary, as usual, if Nancy says something and it just hits me, and I think, oh wow, and I start thinking about it later, and it was just a few thoughts that I wanted to share with you, because when I said that some people, can't eat the bread because they've got some medical conditions or whatever, I started thinking about the fifth actual mystery of the Luminous mysteries, which is the institution of the Eucharist. And of course, as we all know, the Eucharist is Jesus. And I started thinking, you know what? If you take the bread of life, the bread of Jesus, it satisfies you, and you don't get indigestion. You don't get it. It totally fills you. So it's quite safe to come and partake of the Eucharist, the bread of Jesus, the flesh of Christ, that he promised. And in the Luminous Mysteries, Nancy, I love the way that she does that, that she mentions a little sort of reflection before each Hail Mary. And I'm always listening to what she's saying. But today in particular, that that last one, the institution of the Eucharist, it really made me sit up and listen, because I started thinking about all the people just now who perhaps are dying, and in particular for Catholics, the tradition is that you call a priest, and they come and they administer the sacrament of the sick, which gives a lot of comfort to people. It makes them feel very peaceful. I've had it myself on more than one occasion. And it's not because you're dying either. I think that sacrament of the sick is whenever you're not feeling, you've got something serious, and then the priest comes and he administers that sacrament. But most people, and I know what I was like when my husband was dying. I was so desperate that he didn't die without receiving the Eucharist, because he was converted to Catholicism, and he absolutely loved taking communion. So the desire that was in his heart was my desire when he was dying, that Jesus came to him in a very special way. I wanted to know that I could call on a priest and he would come and give him communion, which actually happened. It was just such a grace for me and for him. I mean, I think that the peace that he received, when he was partaking of the body of Christ, was incredible. And I wanted to thank God for that, because not many people get the opportunity for it. You know, many do, but it's such a desire and it's such a hunger for the body of Christ, particularly, you know, when you're at the end of your days. So anyway, Nancy started reading it, and it's when, you know, just before the Passover of Jesus, and they were all sitting, and it was the Last Supper, wasn't it? And he sat there, and she said, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. So, you know, Jesus wanted to sit with his disciples to eat, to commune with them, to have that communion with them before he suffered. And I think that he is with all the people that are suffering right now in the same way. He comes to them, he consoles them, he feeds them with his word. And for those who are fortunate enough to have a priest come to see them, with that bread of life. And then it goes on to say, Jesus took bread, blessed it, take and eat. This is my body. And then taking the wine, he said, this cup is the new covenant in my blood shed for you. So as Catholics, we truly, truly believe that when we go to communion, we are actually receiving the real body and the blood of Christ. It's absolutely heavenly. I mean, just now, the fact that we cannot receive communion is one of the greatest tragedies that we can experience as Catholics. Because to have grown all your life being fed spiritually in that way, and suddenly, like for me, you know, for the last 9 weeks, I haven't been able to go. And I know there will be many, many others like me who can't go to communion just now. So it's very, very painful. It's almost like, you know, I always believe that if you don't eat, you die. But if you don't take your communion, you know, you die spiritually. That's what I believe anyway. And then she said, at that Eucharistic meal, Jesus celebrated the first Mass. So even that Mass is so important to us. I'm so grateful to all the priests and all the bishops and Pope Francis in particular, who is actually putting out, you know, the live streams at the moment. And we're able to participate in some way in the beautiful, you know, sort of celebration of the Mass. And isn't it wonderful that even though we cannot partake of that bread, that we are able to actually pray a spiritual prayer in its place? It's not the same. The real thing. Father Martin said, I'm getting quite emotional. Father Martin put a beautiful post up and sent it privately to some people, and he was saying that although it's all good, this live streaming, but it doesn't replace the real thing. The real deal is actually being able to go to Mass and taking communion in, you know, with all your brothers and sisters together as one body. I'm sorry, I'm losing it tonight. I'm just a little bit emotional. And she said, at every Mass, the sacrifice of Calvary is made present. So, you know, we're sharing in that suffering that Jesus did, and recognize that he died and he suffered for us in order that we could be fed with that bread. And I still maintain that Jesus is the only one that satisfies that hunger that we have. So yes, I'm not going to say any more because I don't want I don't want to embarrass myself in front of everyone that's watching and start weeping, because I feel quite emotional when I think of Jesus and how good he is to us. And I'm emotional about all the people that are at the moment, you know, nearing the end of their lives for one reason or another. Like, because not everybody's dying of COVID-19. There's a lot of people, you know, that we have to recognize that are suffering in many ways as well. So I'm glad that I'm praying this rosary with Nancy. I'm glad that we're putting that time aside. I know a lot of people are praying the rosary, but it's very difficult to pray it live every day. With because sometimes we have other things that come um, to bring disturbances, and um, it's just wonderful anyway. And I just want to thank God for having placed us together and given us this special privilege of praying the Rosary. And I would encourage all of you to do the same. You don't necessarily have to be praying with us and our Rosary. Um, Father Martin himself, I think tonight at 6 o'clock, he had the Rosary. I would encourage you to go to our St. James's Catholic page, the Catholic Church page as well, and pray the Rosary with him, because it's really encouraging to know that we're all praying together. So I'm just going to say good night. I see that Regina's listening, and Sheila, and I just want to say good evening to both of you. And we've been praying for you both. And thank you for sending us your prayer requests. I would encourage you all to keep sending us those requests so that we can bring them to the Lord in prayer. And as I said before, if you don't want your names mentioned in that, we can just pray for a special intention for you. It's not a problem. So we'll see you tomorrow. And I'm just about to post today's Luminous Mysteries, the Rosary that we did. Thank you for listening, and God bless. Good night.